Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Grindhouse, where we drink coffee and talk about movies. I'm Shawn, and today with my girlfriend and co-host Leah Diana, we will be winding back the reel to 1990. Plagued by vivid and depressing visions of colonization on Mars, the ordinary construction worker Douglas Quaid nurtures an unquenchable desire to travel to the unknown and distant red planet. To decipher his reoccurring nightmares, Quaid enlists the help of the memory implant company Recall to purchase a cheap alternative, the recollection of the ideal virtual vacation. Instead, the procedure backfires, and what Quaid used to perceive as reality is no more. Now someone has put a target on his back. The bullets start flying. The answers that Quaid is seeking are on Mars, leaving the question, what is real? What is a dream? Are Quaid and his family prepared for total recall? I'm not sure I understand that description. But let's get into it.
Arrest that woman!
Quaid.
Cut.
Get ready for a surprise!
We can't let him run around. He knows too much. They've got your bug.
I got a lock. There!
The bug's in your skull.
Take this thing out of the case and stick it up your nose. Don't worry, it's self-guiding.
Got him.
I lost him.
Welcome to Mars.
You got a lot of nerve showing your face around here.
Look who's talking.
They erased your identity and implanted a new one.
If I'm not me, who the hell am I?
He's got a hologram!
Welcome to Johnny Cab.
Drive!
Where can I take you tonight? Please fasten your seatbelt.
I want Quaid delivered alive for reimplantation.
That's for making me come to Mars. You wouldn't hurt me. After all, we're married.
Consider that a divorce.
We hope you enjoyed the ride.
Spread the word, you dirty cocksuckers. Tell all your grave robbing friends I want them out of the city now!
The nightmare of insane murder.
From the depths of hell.
The angel of death. Only at the Grindhouse.
This man did a lot of questionable movies in his time, didn't he?
Are you talking about Arnie?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, we watched... What fuck movie did we watch? We watched Terminator, where he was an alien.
He was a cyborg in Terminator.
Whatever. Now we're watching another weird movie with aliens. And I would like to point out that one of my favorite Arnie movies is Jingle All the Way. Very different from this. Also, I am really tired of seeing Arnold's butt. This is the second time I've seen his ass. I only saw a small amount of his ass. And already, the man has a small ass.
Most bodybuilders do.
I have so many questions about this movie. Actual, real, questions.
I might have some answers.
Okay. So, let's get into the details of this movie.
Alright, well, today we watched Total Recall. This one is directed by the infamous Paul Verhoeven.
Never heard that man's name.
Never?
Never.
Well, Paul Verhoeven is most well known for directing these like 90s and late 80s action films. Things like this, Total Recall. Wow. RoboCop.
Total Loss of Memory.
Total Loss of Memory. And Starship Troopers.
Oh, that's why I didn't like this movie. I hate Starship Troopers. Hate that movie.
Aren't you guys excited for us to talk about Starship Troopers?
Oh my god, I hate it. The only good thing about Starship Troopers is NPH. And even I think he didn't really do a good job.
I think that might have been one of his first roles.
Doogie Howser was his first role.
Well, I meant like first like big feature film.
Sucked. Anyways, let's get into this pile of whatever.
Oh, so this one, it's based originally on a book by Philip K. Dick called We Can Remember It For You Wholesale. This one was adapted for the screen by Ronald Shusett, Dan O'Bannon, and Gary Goldman.
Dan O'Bannon.
Dan O'Bannon and I believe it was Gary Goldman are the two who originally wrote Alien.
Oh, okay. Oh, the last movie we did.
That featured Dan O'Bannon?
Nope, the one that we just did previous to this. What movie did we just record before this one? Literally today, May 1st. Am I all right? Oh, fucking...
Night of the Creeps.
Thank you. That director wrote a really big movie. And I forgot.
He's written a lot.
I know. He wrote like a big one, and I was like, oh my god, he wrote that? I've lost it. But a lot of these directors have written really good stuff. Like very, very good stuff. If you hear any jingling or any weird noises, I'm trying to amuse our cat because she is obsessed with knocking everything over here. So I'm trying to, keep her a little. I was just informed that it was facing kind of crooked. So, I mean, I could always do this just to fuck with him.
And we're fucked.
So, how well did this movie do?
Let's see. So, this movie obviously stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sharon Stone, Michael Ironside, and Ronnie Cox.
Scott Speedman.
Scott.
When Michael Ironside came on the screen, I went, wow, I got them all wrong. They don't even look alike. I don't even think they're the same ethnicity.
For some damn reason, Leah seems to... Every time she hears Michael Ironside's name, she thinks of Scott Speedman.
Speedman from the Underworld series.
These two have nothing alike. They have nothing in common.
I'm also the woman who says Jonaquin Phoenix and have all my life and have been corrected by you several times and don't care.
God damn it.
So what was the budget for this film?
So this movie was made on a budget of somewhere between $48 and $80 million.
Jesus
There's no exact number. But it brought in a box office return of $261.4 million.
So it was a blockbuster.
Yeah, I'd say this was a monumental success.
But I don't remember this movie in the 90s. I just remember the name Total Recall, and when I thought of Total Recall, I thought of Terminator. I thought it was along the same lines.
But to be fair, you also weren't a fan of action movies.
I was 5 when this came out, so no.
Exactly. So, like, you probably wouldn't have seen this. It wouldn't have piqued your interest to begin with.
You probably watched this out of the womb.
Not out of the womb, but very early on.
Oh, so it wasn't a womb with a view?
Ah! No. This was one that I saw. I can't even remember the first time I saw it, but it was very early. So like, yeah, I was watching this crazy violence and three-breasted women.
I thought there was like a three-breasted woman in like an Asian dress.
No.
Where's that one from?
I'm not sure. I know the only other three-breasted woman I can think of is there's a three-breasted cat woman in one of the Star Trek movies.
Well, I knew that there was a three-breasted woman in this movie. Therefore, I will be speaking to your parents again about what age is appropriate for you to watch films.
This one might have been my uncle's fault.
Look, after meeting him, I understand.
He's a good guy.
He's a good guy, sure. You were also under the age of 18!
Yeah, fuck it.
Oh, God. So, let me just preface this by saying this movie was not what I was expecting.
And what exactly were you expecting?
I was expecting more of like a Terminator non-stop fucking bullshit action. That movie started and never fucking stopped. And to this day, Sarah Connor is still running, in my opinion. So.
Well, alright, so to be fair, Terminator is written to be essentially one ongoing pursuit from start to finish.
Yes.
This movie, it's a lot more heady. It's a lot more... There's a lot more intellectual ideas that they're playing with.
Yeah. This one's a smarter film.
Oh, by far.
And you did say there were a lot more jokes in this one, and Arnie definitely is funnier in this one, even though Terminator has better classic one-liners.
Well, in Terminator, he's the villain. Unless you're thinking of Terminator 2.
I've never seen Terminator 2. All I know is there's some sort of blue, silver goo dude, and he's a cop.
We'll get to that.
Is that Terminator 2?
Yes.
Is that Scott Speedman?
Nope.
Was Scott Speedman even born when that movie came out?
I'm sure he was born.
Was he even... Did he even hit puberty? I don't know. I'm all turning around with these fucking Arnie movies. Anytime there's an Arnie movie, I'm just fucked. Unless Sinbad's in it, and then it's fine.
Oh, jeez.
He's gonna hate me. Ow.
So yeah, this movie, it deals with a lot more, like, based on a Philip K. Dick novel. Like, his themes and stuff in his books are usually pretty grand.
This story was a good stretch, because if you think about the storyline of this, it's pretty incredible to think about. Like, okay, like, it's 2048, I think they said, or 2050 something.
I can never remember the date.
2084. Because as we were getting to the end of it, I figured out, like, how it was going to go down. I was like, I want to read the synopsis, so I have a little. So it's 2085. The book is 2047 or 2048. So it's 2084. And he has this wonderful life and this wonderful wife, and goes to work every day, but it's the I want something more out of my life. Like, I feel like something's missing. I want a grand adventure or some shit like that. And it actually, I don't know, it was better than I was thinking it would be.
Stop the presses.
Oh no. I should have told him.
It was better than you thought?
Yeah, it was better than I thought it was going to be. GTFO. Actually, GT. Why? Go fuck yourself. So I'm gonna let you lead on this one, because my comments were more snarky. My thing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I didn't really break it down step by step. I just kind of took notes. But essentially, this movie starts off with a dream. we see two people in spacesuits walking on Mars. Essentially, we quickly see that one of them's Arnie, the other one is this lady.
Mystery girl.
Arnie missteps. He falls down a mountain.
Breaks his face on
helmet
a stone.
breaks, and
then you get the
he
with the
immediately
eyeballs
starts freaking out. Which basically, this movie starts with a patented Arnie scream. His like eyes are bulging out and shit, and then he wakes up.
I'm so sorry for the peeking that just happened.
He wakes up and he's in bed next to Sharon Stone.
Sharon Stone was naked for most of the 90s, wasn't she?
That's it. That actually brings up a good fun fact. Apparently, so when they made this movie, Paul Verhoeven really wanted to have her be topless at one point.
Yeah.
Which most directors working with Sharon Stone at that point did.
Yes.
This was before Basic Instinct.
I was gonna say, she showed her vagina to the whole... Vagina. She showed her vagina. She showed her fucking vagina to the whole world at one point.
Yes. So she refused to show anything in this movie.
Okay. But Arnie got to show his bum?
Well, to be fair, I don't even think that was supposed to be seen. It just kind of happened in the shot.
I also think Arnie likes showing off his bum.
Well, he's a bodybuilder. He doesn't care.
Easy on the claws.
But yeah, she refused to show anything, which is kind of funny because I'm pretty sure, and I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure Paul Verhoeven, I think he directed Basic Instinct, so it was only a couple years later.
Okay, let's see. I think I might still have all this shit up. Okay. Sharon Stone. We're gonna go for Basic Instinct. And it was directed by Paul Verhoeven 2 years later. Look at you! Oh, wow.
So that's really funny. Like, she refused to do it in this movie. A couple of years later, she showed everything.
Maybe because she was just nervous about it. I mean, some women can be like, no, I don't want to show. And then, hey, well, I don't want to show my tits, but let's show the downstairs.
Well, I think it also helped that, alright, Basic Instinct was a much more,
That's a dark movie, right?
It's a dark movie, but it's also a much more serious film, and it starred Michael Douglas, who was huge at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm thinking there was probably a lot of elements that, like, drew her to, like, alright, I can do it for that one.
Alright, I'll do this one, yeah. I mean, who's gonna take a movie seriously when there's a three-breasted lady?
A lot of kids in the 90s.
You get off by the three-breasted lady?
No, actually.
Really?
Really?
Oh, we know who your type is. Heather Langenkamp.
Listen. Alright.
You like plain girls. You like plain brunettes. Who don't want to sleep ever because, you have said sleeping wastes time sometimes.
I've been told that Da Vinci never slept because he said it was a waste of time.
He also was riddled with STDs.
He had a lot of issues.
Yeah, like he was crazy. Oh, no. It's Miller time. Goes to the last one. Yeah, my whole thing with that whole beginning scene was like, ew, this is gross, ew. Only because, like, it was... Sharon Stone does a great job with faking emotion. Like, you could tell there's something wrong with this lady. It didn't feel genuine. She was trying too hard, like, Arnie was like, oh, are you jealous of a dream? She's like, who is she? It's not funny. I'm like, that's kind of stupid. Like, I realize you're playing a character, but you're hamming it up too much. Which is great for Sharon Stone because she was playing a woman playing a character.
Well, that's my thing is, like, you have to look at everybody's performances in this movie, minus Arnie's, really, as someone playing someone else.
Yes.
So there's layers to everybody.
It's like pretending on.
And I think that's one of the things now that I really like about the movie. Like, there's a lot of different, it's like an onion. Like, you have to, like, look past.
Peel the layers.
You have to peel the layers and look past, like, what you see on the surface, because there's a lot of different, like, there's, like, performances beneath performances.
Yeah.
And there's, like, plot details beneath plot details. It's kind of intricate for a, like, action thriller.
Yeah, for a 90s action thriller. And I will say, you can see the practical effects in the beginning when Arnie's face is blowing up in the dream. Practical effects in this are pretty good.
Yeah, that's actually one of the notes I made, is that the practical effects throughout this, like the fake heads, like the articulated heads and stuff that they use throughout the movie, they're all extremely good for 1990.
They're very exaggerated. There's like when he's suffocating, it's such an exaggeration of what it would look like, but damn, is it good for 90s?
But it also, that exaggeration plays very well into Paul Verhoeven's. At the time, he was very overzealous with his violence.
Yes.
So, like, if you look at things like, alright, so this, RoboCop, Starship Troopers, all the blood squibs and stuff in those movies, they're over the top.
Yeah.
It's like he fucking strapped a water balloon to somebody's chest and just had it erupt every time somebody got shot.
Oh my god, yeah. Some of the scenes where you're shooting, like, a basic regular gun was blasting out half their chest. I'm like, dude, that's a lot, man. That's... Woo! The blood budget must have been ridiculous.
I wish he still did that type of stuff, because he doesn't.
What does he do now?
Now, I honestly haven't looked into him in a long time, but I know he kind of switched over to, like, more tame things.
He looks kind of scary. Oh, he's a Dutch director. Let's see, what was his last movie he did? Vendetta. Biblical drama film about a 17th century nun who joins an Italian convent and has become has a lesbian love affair with another nun. So he's sticking with the multiple boobs thing. Ella, Tricked. He does a lot of thought-provoking movies.
Yeah, he really always has, honestly.
Hollow Man. He directed Showgirls?
Yeah.
I've always wanted to see Showgirls. Wow, okay. Alright. Showgirls seems like... That's one of those movies that I've always wanted to see but never really looked into, just because I don't know if it's something that I would be into.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like, I never actually, like, sat down and, like, really watched it. Like, I've kind of sat through some of it, but it was, at the time, never something I was interested in, so I never, like, super, like, I sat down to, like, focus on it. But, so after the initial dream sequence, he wakes up next to Sharon Stone. They have their little morning moment. She brings
the
up
sex or the
no,
go on a trip to Saturn.
She brings up the fact that he's been dreaming about this mystery woman for a while, and they kind of, like, she gets a little upset about it, but he talks her down. And then it cuts over to Quaid in the kitchen. He's making himself a protein shake or something, of course.
Yeah, it was very chunky and yellow, but there were no bananas put into it, so I'm like, what are you eating?
Future food. So he's making himself a protein shake. He's watching the news and seeing like footage of the revolution that's happening on Mars. And this is on rewatching, this is where it really becomes clear to me, and it's compounded later on, but how stupid Douglas Quaid actually is.
Look, Arnie usually plays pretty convincingly smart characters. I don't know if Arnie is actually a smart human being.
I honestly don't know.
What did you do?
Our cat's a psychopath.
Oh my god. She's fighting with me right now. This is what I have to do. I have to keep her entertained with this thing, or else she's going to knock everything in our apartment over.
Well, so...
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out my notes here.
He's watching this footage. His wife comes in, and she changes
Changes
off
like
its
this
like this
beautiful
scenery
scenic background with like this lovely music, and I'm like, huh, interesting.
But he immediately is like, Lori, let's do it. Let's move to Mars.
And she's like, what?
And you think about it, it's like you were literally just watching people get mowed down in the streets on Mars, and you want to move there.
Yeah, but when you're passionate about something and when you're convinced, like, there's some reason why I need to be there, you know?
No, I mean, I get it, but the same point is made later on when he talks to his friend at work, and he's like, hey, Harry, did you ever hear about Recall? And then Harry tells him all about how a friend of his got fucking lobotomized.
Yeah, because of it. It's like...
And then, literally, it card cuts from there to him walking into Recall.
It's like anything this man's told, no, don't do that, he just does the complete fucking opposite. Which I appreciate. This is my friend was like, oh yeah, no, don't do that, it'll kill you. Alright, let's see what happens. Yeah, why not, right?
I mean, I get it. It's just really, it's funny to see, like, his character, like, it's like, oh, here's evidence why you shouldn't do something. And then he immediately does it anyway.
He's weird. So he gets to the Recall place, and this dude, he's like, oh, I want to go visit Mars. Oh, let me convince you somewhere else. No, I want to go to Mars. All right. Well, do you want to go to Mars as someone else? And he's like, oh, okay. So they're building the program of who he's going to be. And it looks exactly like the woman from the beginning.
Yes. That's kind of like one of your first little, like, what the fuck moments of the movie.
Like, wait a minute. Like, you're building that character as a spy.
There's a lot of layers to this fucking
This
movie.
movie has so many layers, and I feel like one viewing... This is my first viewing ever. One viewing's not enough. That's what I feel like.
No, I feel like if we were to watch this again at some
point... We'd find even more shit.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I've found so much more just from watching it throughout the years. I feel like definitely if you watch this again, you'd be like, oh.
Yep.
Oh. Like, as it goes on. So yeah, he goes into Recall. Like you said, they begin the process of...
Yeah, they sedate him. They haven't even installed the memory chip yet, and he starts going fucking berserk.
Yes.
Like, he says, like, I'm not you're gonna blow my cover. I'm not supposed to be awake yet. What are you doing? Stop. And he starts beating the shit out of people. And then they have to sedate him even more. So then they wipe his memory of him ever being there and send him on his way in a taxi. Like, oh, we fucked up. Here, bye. Now, my question number one. Did the people at Recall have any fucking idea of who he actually was? Or do they just think, oh, he's Donald Quaid and he's fucking spaz?
Yeah, I don't believe they would have had no way of knowing.
Yeah. Okay. Because that was one thing, like, we're like, oh, he's already been there, and somebody else has wiped his memory, and, like, they were already panicking, like, oh, someone wiped his memory, we gotta get him out of here. Like, was there something, like, they found, like, the tracker in his head, and...
No, I think so I think the idea there is that they can tell that he's had a memory implant before.
Yes.
And outside of them, the only people that can do that are the agency, which is like the government.
Okay. All right.
So immediately that's like, oh fuck, we can't be involved in
Yeah,
this.
we have to wipe this clean. Don't even ever prove that he was here. But it seems like ever since that happened, like when he went to recall is when all of his trouble happened. Not necessarily his interest in Mars, but when after he walked out of that building, that's when everybody was like, oh, okay, well, now we gotta catch you, you're fucked. That kind of thing, right?
Yeah, essentially. But he wakes up in the cab. He's being brought home. And the cab is a Johnny cab. Did you recognize the robot in any way?
I did not, no. Was I supposed to?
Well, so the Johnny cab is I wrote it down. Hang on, because off the top of my head, I'm an idiot. The Johnny cab is modeled after Robert Picardo.
I don't know who that is. Robert Picardo?
Yes, Robert Picardo he played the guy in Gremlins 2 who he was like the bad guy that worked for the company.
Oh, he was in Star Trek Voyager.
Yes, he was. He played the holographic doctor.
Yeah. Okay. All right, I see it now.
Yes, the face and everything of the robot was modeled after him, and he did the voice for it.
Oh, that's so cool. Does it give him credit? It does. It gives him credit. It's the Johnny Cab, voice and image. Oh, cool. He's an interesting man. He's had a hell of a career, too.
Oh, my God. He's been in so much.
Been in so much space stuff. Holy shit.
Of course. So yeah, he wakes up in the cab. The cab brings him home. As soon as he gets out of the cab, he's greeted by Harry. And Harry's immediately questioning him, oh, how was your trip to Mars? And obviously Quaid doesn't remember this.
Yeah, I didn't go to Mars.
And he's like, yeah, you did.
You went to recall.
I told you not to.
And he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
And my question is, how did Harry know he went to recall?
I think maybe because he showed up there. I think his friend Harry was following him the whole time. I'm convinced that Harry was waiting outside of recall, and then when he was watching him leave or watching them throw him in the cab, he followed him home. Which
makes a lot of sense because it's very obvious that Harry is like a spy.
Yeah, he's not very. Even when he's answering questions like, "Oh no, my friend of mine got lobotomized," I'm like, "What's up with you? You're not just some random friend. You are like, you are a plant. You are a bug."
So Arnie essentially gets jumped by Harry's goons. They pull him off to the side.
How many men do you think jumped him at that point? Because it looked like about 7 or 8 people.
I think there was only 5.
5? He busted the shit out of
Harry included.
Yeah. And he killed all of them?
Every single one of them. In brutal fashion.
Brutal. There was so much blood. Holy shit, man. So much blood. I look like a floozy.
So Arnold takes out all the guys. He then rushes back up to his apartment, where Sharon Stone is working out to a hologram.
Excuse me, sorry. It looks like she's getting tennis lessons from somebody.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like watching a this came out during the era of VHS.
Yeah.
So it's like she's watching one of those like a workout tape, like a instructional tape for tennis. Like
you're watching Richard Simmons, but holographic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Arnold comes in, he interrupts, and he's just freaking out. He's like, they tried to kill me. Harry tried to kill me. He's a spy or something. And he tells her he went to recall, and she immediately is upset.
Like, oh, why did you go there? What did you do? You're hallucinating. You're having a problem. And he shows her his hands. He goes, do you think this is fucking crazy? And she just freaks out and starts to try and kill him.
Yes.
But she makes a phone call to somebody first.
Yeah, you see her go to the phone, and she's like, I'm going to call the doctor. And he's like, don't call anybody. He goes to wash his hands. Yeah. And you see Michael Ironside show up on the phone.
Scott Speedman.
Not Scott Speedman.
That's what I'm going to call it. He's not Scott Speedman. There's Scott Speedman and not Scott Speedman. What's a tongue?
Michael Ironside, I'm so sorry.
Not your fault, buddy. It's just my brain works different.
But yeah, he comes out of the bathroom, and the whole apartment's dark, someone's shooting at him. He gets the upper hand and turns the light on, realizes it's his wife.
It's his wife.
I don't know, like they fight for a little while.
Yeah, and then he gets the upper hand, and he starts asking her questions. He's like, why are you doing this? You're my wife. She's like, no, I'm not. I was implanted 6 weeks ago. Like, they wiped your memory and gave you a new one. And he's just, like, processing all of this. And he's not processing it very well. He's like, fuck. Oh, and then while they're fighting, Arnie looks at her at one point and goes, clever girl. This is 3 years prior to Jurassic Park. Man, Total Recall, you lost the rights to this phrase. You had it for a little while, and you lost it.
Oh,
you got beat up by a prehistoric creature. But that did make me laugh pretty hard.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good moment. I like that one.
That one was pretty good.
So he realizes that she's stalling for Michael Ironside and these guys.
Let's have sex. You can tie me up. Oh, you weren't that kinky when we were married. She's like, hey, see what I am. And she's like, her eyes are just doing this. And he realizes, oh, great, you're stalling for time, you giant bitch.
He knocks her out. He escapes. And then Michael Ironside and the guys show up. And we learn that Sharon Stone is actually Michael Ironside's girlfriend.
Yeah. Wife?
So I don't know her. Oh, Laurie and Richter is his name. So
she's legally married to Quaid, but she's actually Hauser's wife. But I guess that comes out later, like why he did that whole thing and blah blah. I don't know. Like it's more deeper into the plot, and there's so many layers to it that I'll ask my next question later.
Okay.
But oh my god. Also, my comment was, that man needs some anger management. Michael Ironside has always played such an angry human being, but I know in real life he's not.
He plays it so well.
He does, but he's not an angry human. He's a very nice, calm guy, from what I understand.
Generally.
Yeah. I've never seen him be... He's always played assholes, though. Always.
It's generally, like, if you see somebody always playing a bad guy, or, like, somebody... Oh, this guy's always playing somebody angry or somebody violent, or usually they're the complete opposite in real life.
Yeah. And
I think that's just a trait like that most people have, is they can play the opposite of what they are really well. So following this, they pursue Quaid. We learn that they have a tracker on him.
Yep.
There's like the whole chase sequence where they're following him through the whatever. I assume this is like an apartment complex.
Yeah, like apartment complex or something, because they are like hardcore following him to the ends of the fucking earth.
It almost looks like a mall, the way it's set up.
And then he ends up at like a hotel. Yeah, he ends up at a hotel, or am I'm missing? I don't know. This all kind of like meshed a little.
He ends up at a hotel because he's trying to hide, and this is after the big like action sequence where He murders a bunch of people on an escalator, and
Yup.
that's where some of the best squibs in the movie show up.
Squibs?
The bullet hits.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh, and fun fact about that, one of the guys in this opening action sequence
Yes.
that he actually gets gunned down during the escalator part is Arnold's stunt double.
Is that the one that somebody steps on?
Um,
Like they step on one of their chests.
it's possible. I wasn't paying attention at that exact moment.
Hmm.
But I actually had never noticed it before this viewing. But I was like, oh my god, that's fucking Arnold's stunt double that he always uses. And I just happened to notice his face. And I was like, oh fuck, that's him. He's one of them. That's so cool.
That is pretty cool.
But yeah, and then there's the infamous X-ray machine scene.
Yep.
Which I guess at the time that was some of like the best CG there had been.
I see a few flaws now that it's 2022.
It's a little rigid.
But there's not much flaws to that. That is incredible.
No, it matches the movements of the people coming out of it
Very perfectly.
very well.
Yeah.
It's just a little like slightly rigid when they're in there.
But then again, this is 1990. This is 22 years ago. That's incredible for 22 years ago.
I agree. It is really well done. Arnold gets away by getting on a subway. That's when he ends up at the hotel, where he gets to the hotel and immediately gets a phone call.
Yes, immediately.
And the guy calling him is actually right outside of his hotel room. And the guy is explaining, hey, you said if anything ever happened to you, I was your friend in the agency, you told me to find you and give you this suitcase. So he leaves the suitcase for him. Arnold runs outside to get it, where a little old lady has already happened upon it. And he struggles with her and then rips it out of her hand.
Oh, this comes with two of, not my favorite line, but two of my favorite. Where the dude goes, come on, hurry up, you look beautiful. And then the little old lady's fighting him off and she's like, fuck you, you asshole, for taking his own suitcase that she was going to steal.
Yeah.
I was like, what is happening? So after that, he runs out into like what appears to be like a main section of the city. How many ads could you count in that one scene that are still around?
The only ones that I ever pay attention to are the, there's the one for the Ritz that he looks at, because that's the hotel. But then there's Fujifilm and Coca-Cola.
There's Philip Panasonic.
Is there?
Just Philips. Yeah, there's a big Philips sign.
I mean, that's still around.
And then there was like Galaxy Tourism and a couple other ones in the corner. But I was like, Fujifilm, huh? Is that still around anymore?
Yeah, it is.
Fujifilm is still around?
Yeah, they switched to just Fuji.
They're just Fuji now? But I laughed. I was like, wow, some of these companies are still here today. So props to you. I mean, we're still 60-something years in the future from this point. At that point, it was like 95. Now we're like closer to like 60-something. A lot of those places are still around. So let's hope Coca-Cola doesn't ever close. Or else that's going to be...
Tank.
Oh, God. It's because you're not a sody person. We're not sody people here.
Where were we?
So he gets in the... There's a big runaround where he gets in the Johnny Cab and rips the Johnny Cab dude out, and he takes that and runs away. And they're trying to track him, but they're having a hard time because he put a wet towel over his head. So they're kind of... They can pinpoint
to muffle the signal,
yeah, they can pinpoint the area, but they don't know exactly where he is. So once he gets to like this old abandoned something, they said what it was, but I don't remember. He opens the case, he's starting to listen stuff, read stuff, and then he has to take what looks like a brain scrambler and put it in his nose and pull out the thing that's tracking him.
And this is one of the best scenes to show off those like articulated heads.
The practical on that, you could tell, because the practical heads are a little too exaggerated, and on better looking Blu-ray version, I'm like, I can see the painting lines. But it was because it was so close, and they didn't expect us to be able to watch this shit in 4K. I put, oh look, they predicted COVID tests 22 years early. Because he says you have to put it up to your nose. It's self-guided. It'll go through your nose. Don't worry. It has to shove it in real deep, and you're gonna feel it. And I'm like, I'm having PTSD to all the COVID tests I've had to have, where they're like, okay, sit still. I'm gonna shove this in 2 inches, and you're sitting there going, you're in my brain, like. So yeah. There's that, and then there's also holograms, which he has, like, he puts on a bracelet which gives him a perfect copied image of himself, which is really cool. And I wish that he would have used it more.
Yeah, it's really only placed in there so that he can use it at the end.
Yeah. But, I mean, he could have used it so many more times to get away. A little more efficiently. If he would have just, like... But I don't know if it was, like, a short-range hologram where he couldn't, like, really use it all too much. I don't know. But...
Well, I think it was definitely a short-range thing, but
yeah.
He definitely could have used it more than he did.
Yeah. I mean, right away, he could have used it when... In the next scene, where he poses as this really tall, really big lady. And... It starts to fuck up, and it starts to, like, he starts to have a problem.
So
I wish he could have used the hologram when they were like, that's I forgot his name already.
Quaid.
That's Quaid, and he just goes, oh, bink, oh, there's Quaid. Quaid's over there, and he could run away. I wish he would have used that.
Yes. So yeah, he gets the tracker out of his nose, gets rid of it, shoves it in a candy bar and throws it to rats. The guys show up. They think he's still there. They're shooting at it. They realize that he's not there.
Yep.
But they know. They shoot up the message that Hauser left for himself.
Yep.
And it's now glitched on just get your ass to Mars.
Get your ass to Mars, yeah.
So that we transition to Mars because they know he's going there. Richter and the guys they show up on Mars. They're there to track down Quaid. And as you just said, there's a woman who's like starts freaking out in the processing area.
Because he says, oh, what do you have any fruits or vegetables to declare? And she's like, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. And I'm like, what fucked up? What fucked up in that head for you to like, nah.
Well, I think it was, he only pre-programmed so many responses.
Yeah.
So it was, how long are you planning on staying? 2 weeks. He didn't expect the food
do you have
question.
anything to declare? I mean, that's definitely a question that you get in airports internationally. Do you have any fruits or vegetables to declare? Did you take anything into the country that could possibly be deemed illegal? I mean, and going to certain countries, you wouldn't imagine certain things are illegal, but in the Middle East, I know, you cannot bring sex toys to the Middle East. None at all. So if you are planning to bring, you're going alone and you plan on bringing your little pocket rocket buddy, you cannot bring that there at all. Because it's a very conservative country. Or there's conservative countries. Why do I know this? Because I watch a lot of TikTok. Okay? Out myself in my
Too much TikTok.
Hey, I enjoy TikTok, and it's bullshit.
Anyway, so one of my favorite parts of this sequence is the fact that, like, when you watch this, it start to transition from the actress to the fake head and all that. There's no feasible way that this thing works. Like, how, like, you see this giant rod come out, and, like, where would Arnie's head be in this fucking thing? It makes no sense.
Look, the future is bullshit. The future in movies is absolutely bullshit almost all the time.
I don't know. It's not logistically sound, but...
Also, Richter. I want to slap this man because he is shooting willy-nilly to kill this man. And you are in a bubble with compressed air to keep people alive. And you shoot out the windows
Yes.
This man is a psycho.
This is his character, though. Like, he's a loose cannon. He's off the rails.
And he doesn't give a shit if he kills other people. Everybody is cannon fodder except for his target.
Exactly.
And he's still going to kill his target anyways. So, I don't know. Every time that man comes on screen, great actor, I wanted this man to just get murdered every second he was on screen.
Eventually.
I hated him. But I guess that was the purpose.
Exactly.
Oh no, I have questions about that too.
Oh boy.
This movie makes me have so many questions about the story. Maybe because I was very interested in the story, or maybe because, I don't know, something's bothered me about the story. So, we'll see.
So, big shootout. Once they realize Quaid is there, he gets away, of course. We then follow him. He gets on a train. He heads to the what the hell do they call it? It's basically like the sex district.
Oh, the lost something.
Oh no, the bar is the last resort. I just meant
They
the
didn't
district.
call it Sector 69, did they?
No, it was like it had like a name, like it was like this is not it, but it was like the Lavender District. You know what I mean? It was like something.
Yeah, yep. Yeah.
I just can't remember what it was.
I don't remember what the name of it was.
But he goes there, he goes to the last resort, to find, oh, no, I skipped over, he goes to the hotel he was supposed to go to.
Yeah, he goes to the hotel he's supposed to.
He checks in, there was something left in the safety deposit box.
Yep.
He gets that, and there was a note left in there. It's essentially a flyer for the last resort, and...
I just got that. Come get your girls at the last resort because they're the last resort.
Oh yeah. But on the back of it, it says, for a good time, ask for Melina.
Yep.
And I always thought this was a really cool detail, like that he sees that note and then he's like, oh, can I borrow your pen? And writes Melina.
He wants to see if he was the one that wrote it or if someone else did.
It's just a nice little touch. It's like he double checks to see if that's his handwriting, and it is. So he takes a cab to the last resort. This is where we meet Benny, our wacky comic relief kind of.
Why are all these types of characters named Benny? And I would like to point out, Benny from Mummy Returns, The Mummy.
Hey, Benny!
Hey, O'Connor! Looks like I got all the camels! Hey, Benny! Looks like you're on the wrong side of the river! Oh, God. Oh, that's in the wheelhouse. That's in the wheelhouse. Brendan Fraser!
So, Benny takes him to the last resort, where this is where we're introduced to the three-breasted woman, the infamous three-breasted woman. We are introduced to Tony.
Tony.
Who, do you know who plays Tony?
No. And if you say Tony Shalhoub, I'm gonna laugh my ass off.
No, Tony's played by Dean Norris. So he's you've probably seen him in 1,000 things. He's most famous these days for his role in Breaking Bad.
All right, let's back the bus up. All right.
This is a very early performance from him, and he's under heavy prosthetics.
What was his name?
Dean Norris.
Oh, that's who I thought Michael Ironsides actually was. And you can kind of see, yeah. Breaking Bad. What else was he? He was in something else that I know.
He's in tons and tons of shit.
He's in Terminator 2. Let's see. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Yes.
We saw that, and I don't remember seeing him.
That's because that movie sucked.
It wasn't the... Oh, he's in the cell. Oh, he plays the bad guy in the cell.
Yeah?
I'm sorry. What is this bullshit of a poster as opposed to the poster we have for it?
Listen, there's 1,000 alternate posters for bigger movies, and most of them suck ass.
Oh, wait. I'm wrong. That's the bad guy.
Oh.
Wait a minute. Then who does he play in this movie? He plays Cole. Oh, he's one of the police detectives. Okay. God damn it. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, we're gonna save that for an actual cell watch through because that was something I did not know. Okay, I'm sorry, you're losing me on this one. Yeah, but he was under very, very heavy prosthetics. I mean, his whole half of the face was completely gone. So all you saw was like this much in his ear for that guy.
Yeah. He's under a lot of makeup in this movie, which
lot.
Doesn't hinder his performance, in my opinion.
No, his performance is amazing.
He's not in a whole lot, but the scenes that he's in, he does a good job.
Yes. I do like the element of you're introduced to the mutants who have abilities. All mutants look like they have abilities in this movie. And there's a little mutant girl who...
I'm being invaded.
You are being invaded. There's a little mutant girl who talks to Arnie character, help me, Quaid. And she's like, oh, I can tell you what your birthday is. You're a Taurus. And obviously Quaid doesn't know anything, and he's just like, oh, you're such a sweet little girl, like, you know, da-da-da. And then he asks Benny what's happened with them. Well, they were among the first, you know, people here, and they didn't have enough oxygen, and Copenhagen suffocated their oxygen, so it... What?
Copenhagen.
I'm sorry, I heard Copenhagen the whole time. So I'm thinking there's this Swedish fucking enemy. He's gonna be like, yeah, and the meatballs will come and take over. Like, I heard Copenhagen so many times. Copenhagen. Well, I'm gonna be calling it Copenhagen the whole episode, just so you know. You're gonna have to correct me most of the time. But I guess this guy is an absolute asshole from the moment between Richter and him. Like, you made people give their lives for this mineral that they're farming off of Mars. That it mutated the people there, so now you treat them like second-class citizens, even though you're the reason why they're like this.
Oh yeah, Copenhagen's a fucking piece of shit.
Piece of fucking work, man. Holy Christ.
You know who's not a piece of shit, or at least wasn't at this point?
Benny?
Arnie.
No.
And I'm not talking about in the movie. So, a fun fact I'd like to work in here, and I honestly can't think of a better place to do it, is that during production of this movie, Arnold noticed that Michael Ironside was like constantly on the phone between takes. And as someone he had a stake in this movie, he was like really involved in the production, as he is with most of the stuff he's in. He pulled him aside, and he was like, he's like, you know, what's going on, man? Like, your head's not in this. What's happening? And apparently Michael Ironside told him that he was phoning his sister, because at the time she was suffering through cancer.
Oh, wow.
And the moment he told him that, Arnold immediately took Michael Ironside to his trailer, and they sat there and had an hour-long three-way conversation between the two of them and Michael Ironside's sister on the phone. And Arnold talked her through all these different exercises that she could do, and what kinds of foods that she could eat to help her through that. And apparently to this day, Michael Ironside has never forgotten how kind he was during that whole process.
Now, did Arnie have cancer, or did anybody in his family have cancer?
No, I think he's just, like, his background in weightlifting and bodybuilding,
nutrition and stuff. Yeah.
He knew some tricks that she could use to, like, strengthen her core and everything.
Wow.
And I've heard a lot of bad, negative stuff about Arnold in real life.
Yes.
In recent years, I have to say, like, that's absolutely incredible to see or to hear about.
Yeah.
My co-star has abandoned her post because our cat is being a fucking shitheel.
It's hot in this apartment.
It is getting hot in this apartment.
We live in the attic. 67 degrees outside. So we're roasty toasty princesses right now. I think you lost your co-star.
Alright, so where were we?
So he gets to the last resort and he says to the bartender, I'm looking for Melina. Melina's busy. Melina has certain clientele that she keeps up. So at this point you realize that this isn't really a ladies of the night establishment. This is something.
Well, I think to some degree it is.
To some degree it is, but you realize this is a front, and a very well hidden front, because it has double meaning. The last resort meaning the girls here are on their, not the best, but the last resort meaning the last stand for these rebels that are fighting the fight to get Mars back under some sort of normal human control.
Very well named.
It is very well named. There are a lot. I bet you we could sit here and pick apart the script just with the nuances that were supposed to be in it and the words and stuff. Like, it is very, very cool. So he pulls out cash and says, I'll make it worth her while, and meets Melina. And Melina is straight up a dick to Quaid right away. Like, you didn't tell me, you didn't call, like, what is happening, what's going on? So you really realize that Melina has no idea what happened to him in the last 6 weeks. Like, he has basically disappeared from Mars and no one knows what happened to him. Recall agent is a trip. Recall agent is a trip. What?
I assume this is one of your notes.
Yeah.
Is it the guy that shows up at his hotel?
Yeah, I think my notes. I watched the whole Melina thing, and I didn't really have much notes because there's a lot of information there. You realize that he and Melina got really close. There was something really genuine there, and he mentions like, "Oh, I was on Earth. I was implanted back on Earth, and I have a wife." And she freaks out, and he's like, "No, it's not like that. Like, she's not really my wife. We're married, but I was forced into all this when they wiped my memory. I don't know who." She kept calling Hauser, and he's like, "I don't know who Hauser is. Like, I'm Quaid." She's like, "You're Hauser." Like, and you get a lot more information here. Like, oh, like Quaid really isn't who he is. Like, he's this guy Hauser. Okay. And now, like, she's like, "Oh, I'll make you believe that you did love me once." Excuse me. Sorry. It's just a lot of information until she kicks him out.
Yeah, she essentially pulls a gun on him and is like,
"Get out.
You need to get the fuck out of here."
Yeah. To which, like, he's like, "Okay, now what's my next step at this point? Like, I'm not sure what to do right now." So he goes back with Benny back to his hotel.
Yeah, Benny, you assume Benny takes him back to his hotel. We actually kind of just transition there.
Yeah.
But he's back at his hotel. He's watching Cohagen's announcement about, I think he increased, he declared martial law.
Yeah.
And, then he gets a knock at the door.
And it's someone from the Recall Technologies saying, oh, you never came out of your stasis, basically. You're trapped, you're schizophrenic hallucinations. You need to take this pill to get out. And he's like, oh, I don't believe you. And then all of a sudden, Sharon Stone shows back up. And you're like... And it was at this point that I was like, wait a minute. Is he still there? Is this all a lot? Like, it got me. Until... And he was convinced too, until the doctor started sweating. And that's when Arnie was like, holograms don't sweat. And shoots him right in the fucking head. Holy shit. And then Sharon Stone goes all like fucking badass lady on him, and walls are breaking down, and like the government's coming in, or the Mars like army's coming in, and it's fucking insane.
Yeah, it gets pretty wild. Like, so Cohagen's guys are essentially ambushing the room to take him out. They do get the upper hand on him and knock him out.
They do, and they knock him out, and then while he's being carried out, or he's like being taken away, Melina shows back up. And it's basically Melina versus the wife?
Yeah, so Melina shows up. She guns down most of the guys. And then her and Sharon Stone, Lori, have a fight. And that fight culminates in Arnie getting a gun.
And shooting Lori in the head.
Shoots her in the face. And that moment is just fucking awesome.
Just boom! Blown away. And then Richter finds his girlfriend with the shot in her head. And Richter, I feel like Michael Ironsides could have done more at that point. Because he's already shown his anger. I think it should have been worse.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think he could have put a lot more, like, aggression into that whole thing.
Oh, God, yeah.
But I also think he was trying to play that character as much more cold. So...
Like, oh, bitch is dead. I lost that. Fuck.
Like, it affects him, which is why he does that, his little almost shoots them, even though he shouldn't thing. But you see that he gets over it kind of quickly.
Yeah.
As the movie progresses. So next, what the hell happens next?
They run basically back to the last resort, and Tommy hides them in the back of it. Richter shows up with the government and starts, mowing everybody down, like killed the triple-breasted lady, poor woman. I guess 3 breasts are not as good as 2. Is about ready to kill the little person hooker. Damn little person hooker has a hidden knife and just stabs one of the dudes so violently. I'm like, damn, girl.
She stabbed him in the dick.
Oh my God. Just like, nope, you don't need this anymore, eunuch. Jesus Christ. And Copenhagen. So Switzerland decided not to be neutral ever again. Copenhagen. Copenhagen is in Switzerland, right? I think it is.
I don't think so. I could be wrong, but
I don't know. I gotta look it up before I offend like an entire. Oh God, it's in Denmark. I'm an asshole. So Denmark shows up.
Well, fuck.
I've just offended. I am so sorry. I don't know European geography. I was taught in American schools, and obviously, they're not good. Especially the town I grew up in.
No, this place sucks.
The education is not good here, guys, and I apologize if I offend anybody. But yeah, Cohagen shows up on a screen in front of Richter, and he's like, "We've got him." He's like, "Pull out." Why? Just pull out. I got it. And he seals this entire quadrant off and seals him off from air. Like, Cohagen is slowly going to suffocate an entire sector of people on Mars because they possibly hid this man. Which leads me, future question, but it leads me to that question too. So I'll get to that part. So they go to escape, and they're escaping through these old tunnel routes, and Benny's there, and you get to, if anybody's ever played Skyrim, you get to what looks like catacombs. And I'm not kidding you when you get lost in it's the Durg catacombs.
The Draugr.
The Draugr catacombs. These things look like Draugrs. Like, lying in the walls looks like Draugrs.
Yeah, it looks like if you go through any of the small, like, ruins or dungeons in Skyrim.
And they go,
there's like these little... There's always, like, these little, like, burial nooks that there are, like, Draugr skeletons in.
Yep.
And only people who play Skyrim will understand any of this. But that is exactly what this area looks like.
Exactly what they look like, which absolutely killed me because I'm like, oh my god, there's Draugrs. And as I said that to him, this looks like Skyrim, right? One of the dude's arms moves. And I'm like, oh, it is Skyrim. But we find out that Benny is explaining, like, why did you help us? And he takes his hand off and unfurls his arm, and his arm has, like, 3 fingers, and it's, like, double the length. And he's like, oh, you're a mutant? He's like, yep. He's like, I'm fighting for the cause. Which I was like, oh, that's really cool that he chose a mutant, too. And he's helping all of them out to kind of liberate Mars from Cohagen. So then the Draugr moves, and I freak out, and I'm like, oh, Skyrim. But it's actually...
It's the rebels.
It's the rebels accepting them into where they need to go. And he's meeting with Tummy Baby.
Quado.
You get in front of the dude. I don't remember the dude's name. The normal guy. It was like a normal everyday name.
Yeah, I don't know.
Quado's host. I'm going to call it the host dude.
Yeah, he is Quado, essentially.
Yeah, but he goes by another name because he is himself a Quado. I'm not even kidding, Stomach Baby. Quado is
they're essentially like Siamese twins.
Yeah. And he didn't eat him in the womb. He just kind of mutated belly baby. And he can see into somebody's mind.
Yeah, he's basically like a psychic.
So he grabs Quaid's hands and he leads him through what he's forgotten. And what he's forgotten is a 500,000-year-old alien relic that they built, which is basically a giant thermal, like...
Yeah, so this is essentially leading us into the
Sci-Fi
finale, which you learn that
there's a reactor.
The entire core of Mars is made of ice, and that this machine essentially melts the ice and releases oxygen, which will alter the atmosphere of the planet to
It'll
be
basically
inhabitable.
turn it into an Earth's atmosphere. A brand new, pure Earth atmosphere with no, like, pollution, no nothing. And you find out that Cohagen has... I'm gonna suffer for this the whole time. Cohagen has known about this, and because he wants to keep the monopoly, he's making sure that he controls the air, but... by doing this, it will essentially eat up all of the mineral or all of the metal that they've been mining off of Mars. So Cohagen will literally lose his entire grip on Mars. He will no longer be the tyrant of this place. So once they do that, he talks to him a little. All of a sudden, the army shows up. They break right through, and they're like, "We knew where you were." It's like, how the fuck did you guys know? Like, he is deep, deep, deep in the underground of Mars. Like, what is happening? So they capture him, they kill Quaddle, and Quaddle's last words to, or they kill Quaddle's host, and Quaddle's last words to Quaid is, start the reactor. Get to the reactor, start the reactor.
Yes, and in this same scene, you learn that the reason they got found out was because Benny is a spy.
Benny is a spy. Benny ratted them out because he basically is like Benny from The Mummy. Whichever side benefits him better.
Oh,
and
yeah.
being on the government side at that point is the winning side, as opposed to the losing side who just lost their basic commander. Like, he's gone. Like Cohagen is pretty much, oh no, revolution's over, I win. And then the whole fucking bullshit of Hauser comes out. And this is where I have the most amount of questions.
Well, alright. So, yeah, so they get taken to Cohagen. Cohagen essentially lays out the entire thing that what we thought was going on, where it looked like Hauser was switching sides, and that's why he helped Quaid, is false. And it turns out that for the past year, Cohagen and Hauser created the idea of Quaid so that he could infiltrate the resistance.
Yep.
And this all essentially gets laid out through Cohagen's explanation and a video that Hauser left for Quaid.
Yes. Which got to me and how I was thinking, okay. Oh, God, I had like 5 or 6 questions. It's killing me.
Well, before we get to the climax here.
Do we need to go to an ad break?
I think it's time that we take a little break. We'll stew on these questions for a minute while you guys learn a little bit about our sponsors. Stay tuned.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled film talk for this important announcement. I know what you're thinking. Oh, God, not an ad. But trust me, if you have ever had a passing interest in podcasting, then you're gonna want to hear about Anchor. Anchor is a podcast platform by Spotify, and it is way easier to make a podcast with absolutely everything you need to capture your audience all in one place. Anchor has the tools to help you record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And choosing to host with Anchor means that you can distribute your podcast on all major listening platforms, like Spotify, naturally, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Stitcher, and many more. It also allows you to begin earning money with your show with no minimum listener requirements. Anchor was our first and only choice when we decided to start our show, and we cannot recommend it enough. So, if you have an idea to podcast, don't wait any longer. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. So one of my questions I had was Melina. Now, very close to Hauser, and they started falling in love. Did Hauser at one point question being a double agent? Like, if he fell for Melina, was he actually like, oh, when this first started, I really was Cohagen's friend. And now that I've fallen in love with Melina and we really did have feelings for each other, was I going to double-cross the double-cross?
Well, I think there may have been some degree of, like, thought there. Like, I'm sure there were some feelings of some kind.
Yeah.
But I think Hauser ultimately would have remained the bad guy.
Yeah.
He couldn't secure Quaid the same way, though.
Yeah. I like how Quaid is 100% different from Hauser. Like, he was still, like, having the nightmares as Hauser, but Quaid was more invested in the good guys. He saw the good in the rebellion. He saw the good in this because it's like, why is this man controlling people like people from Earth? Like, can't the people from Earth come up here and stop him? Like, that was one of my other questions. Like, why are there all these rebellions? Why is there all this thing? Like, didn't somebody on Earth go, hey, we're gonna go up and investigate and figure out what's happening?
Yeah, that's something about this movie. They don't ever, like, introduce the idea that, you know, people on Earth would
question, like, what is happening?
Get involved.
Yeah.
It's like Mars is, like, a different entity altogether, and, like, Earth restrictions don't apply. You know what I mean?
But it doesn't make sense to me, because if someone is taking advantage of the people on Mars, they essentially are not Martians at that point. They are immigrated Earthlings. So they are still from Earth. So I would think in this early of, like, exploration, like colonization, stuff like that, Earth would still get involved. Like, wait, how come you can't keep the peace? What's going on? We're going to investigate. That's what I feel like should have happened.
Ultimately, it doesn't make that much sense. Like, logistically, there would be Earth involvement.
Yeah.
And I don't really know. They just don't explain that.
No. Oh, what was my other question? So, if Richter was not in on the plot, why was Richter's wife the one that had to marry Quaid? I essentially feel like she needed to be in on the plot, knowing that, oh, once this was all done, I would go back to Richter.
Alright, so Cohagen only gives out enough information that's needed. Like, he
Yeah.
doesn't give out more than he needs to. So, I think that Richter and his girlfriend, wife, whatever the hell she is, she was already working for Cohaagen. I think they probably just got together through work.
Yeah.
And I think she was just assigned this role. I don't think, and she was probably only told what she had to be told.
Yeah.
So, like, I need you to just pretend to be his wife, report back on what he does. And that was the extent of it.
Yeah.
So, I don't think there was any, like, reason for her to be chosen. I think she was just the best for the job.
Okay.
The most trustworthy for the job.
Alright. And Richter feels like he is an absolute puppet. Like, oh, my girlfriend died? Cool. Oh, I wasn't in on the plot? You kept it from me to make me be on my toes? Alright. If I was Richter, I would have shot Cohaagen in the face and taken over.
Yeah.
That's kind of a dick move to be like, oh, two best friends are using me? Fuck you.
There was a, so, back in, like, early 90s and 80s, like, movies like this, there was, like, kind of a hierarchy system that they used for villains a lot of the time. So you'd have, like, the big head guy. In this case, it was Cohaagen. And then there'd be his underlings in varying stages. So, like, in this case, you have Richter, he was the guy in black. Below him is the guy with the glasses.
Oh, the
guy
guy
in gray.
that was tracking, yeah.
Like, he was in gray. They were color-coded.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just how those characters were. Like, this was your role. This was what you stayed. You didn't, like... You could have easily written somebody that turned on Cohaagen.
Yeah.
But that's just not... This was a stereotypical, like, format.
Yeah.
So much so that when Joe made The Mind's Eye,
Yeah.
he did the exact same thing with his villains.
He did, yeah.
So
I
you
remember
had,
that.
yeah. So you had like in that movie it was Michael Lecicero plays, I forget their characters' names, but he was like the guy in black.
Yep.
And then below him was Jeremy Gardner's character, who was the guy in brown.
Yep.
Like, and they just did it that way.
I guess I didn't watch enough action movies to, like, understand that hierarchy. But Starship Troopers did have that as well. Because NPH wore white.
Well, Starship Troopers is a whole nother animal, because that movie's based around, like, what do you call it? I can never remember the exact term when I'm trying to talk about it, but like, the way Nazi Germany was. So, like...
The militaristic kind of...
Like, the totalitarian government. So, like, by the end of that movie, NPH is wearing, like, full-on SS officer uniform.
Yeah, he's, like, head honcho at that point, trying to get everybody on board, and then they're, like, seeing... This is not what we should be doing. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, we're lambs to the slaughter at this point.
Yeah.
Kind of bullshit. I hate that movie on so many levels.
We'll have to go over it at some point.
My brother's gonna be so happy you're gonna make me watch that. My brother loves Starship Troopers.
A lot of people love Starship Troopers.
I fucking hated Starship Troopers. Hated it. One of the best characters gets killed in the beginning. And I sit there and I go, don't worry, buddy, you got out early.
Alright, so essentially we're in our big climax now.
Yeah.
We have Quaid and Melina racing for the reactor.
Yep.
Benny tries to stop them. Benny gets killed.
Arnie puts a drill right through Benny, which is funny.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Oh, it's... Oh! Everybody's screaming.
They get to the reactor area. It's a big final confrontation, so, like, you got a bunch of guys pursuing them. Arnie uses the hologram to fake them out.
Yep.
He then gets confronted by Richter. There's a big fight on an elevator. between the two of them.
Yep.
And which leads to Richter's unfortunate demise.
Richter's demise is probably my favorite because Quaid is holding on to his arms, and then his arms, like, from here get ripped off, and then he falls. And I wanted Arnie to just have such a better, like, one-liner. I was like, gotta give Richter a hand. Like, or something stupid, and he doesn't.
Well, no. Instead, it plays off of, like, right before they try to brainwash them. He says, see you at the party.
Oh, yeah, see you at the party, Hauser.
Yeah, and then, so when his arms get ripped off, he throws his arms at him, and he's just like,
see
you at the party, Richter!
Oh, God. And then we get to Hauser, Quaid, and Copen having a final standoff, and he blows the back window or the back wall out completely, and they're getting sucked into the atmosphere of Mars. And Arnie hits that fucking thing, and it starts to heat up the core. But unfortunately, it's not heating up fast enough, and Copenhagen goes out first, and you see some of the most ridiculous, very well done, but ridiculous practical of their eyes bulging, them going, ah, their skin's bulging, the blood's coming out of them in certain areas, and they're suffocating. And, like, obviously Copenhagen probably went out about 7 or 8 seconds before the other two, but Melina and Quaid go out too, and they're suffering, as you're seeing, like, the whole place decompress, windows being breaking, people being, like, pulled out into the atmosphere and shit. And I just remember watching this, looking at you, because it lasts a long time, thinking, what the fuck? This is not what it would look like if you get thrown out into no atmosphere space.
No, so this was still during a time where explosive decompression was like what we assumed would happen. However, I think now we've realized that if you were to get sucked out into space, yes, you would not be able to breathe, but as soon as you take in a breath, your entire internal system would freeze up.
Yes.
And you would essentially just die of
absolute cold.
Yeah, you'd hit absolute zero, essentially.
Your body would, so my thing is, if that accident were to happen, and they can get you in quick enough, they may have enough time to re-thaw you out, but you would have brain damage, you would have trouble breathing, your organs would be in failure. But there would be an extremely slim chance of saving you. The way they were suffocating, there's no way any three of those would have been able to do that. They would have gotten sucked out and died immediately. It would have been like, oh, sorry, you're gone, you're dead.
Yeah.
But to make more dramatic effect that they couldn't breathe, it was at least, I would say, a good 1.5 to 2 minutes of this dramatic. If you have to pull up any scene, pull up that scene. Pull up the ending when Melina and Arnold are outside trying to gasp for air. The practicals are gorgeous, but you're sitting there nowadays going, that's not how it would work.
No, but it's incredible to watch.
Oh my god. The eye bulging and, like, the amount of prosthetics that were on them, and their hands are blown up, their bodies are blown up, they're like, stuff that once they stop, they look normal. If that's really what's happening to you, you would be deformed for the rest of your life.
Well, I think that was some of the idea behind the mutants as well.
Yeah, where they couldn't breathe and they were suffocating, so they stayed the same. So why didn't Melina and Quaid come out looking a little funny?
I think the mutants were due to long-term exposure to low oxygen.
Okay.
But again, none of this is explained.
No, none of it. And that's what I would like. I wanted more explanation on. Not much, just a little bit. There wasn't very much explanation, and it was like, what is happening?
But yeah, so eventually the machine transforms the atmosphere of the planet,
and it looks like a blue-skied sunny day on Earth, on Mars.
It does, and
it starts raining in certain parts. There's thunderstorms. It's very interesting. It's like, huh. Now you have a habitable planet that you don't have to work as hard to maintain. And I'm hoping that now that Richter and Copenhagen is gone, or Copen has gone. Cohagen. Fuck me. I'm having a rough afternoon. Now that they're gone, maybe Quaid and Molina will take over and run the place, and it will be a little more functioning, a better place to live for humans, Martians, and mutants alone.
All right. Well, shall we get into our closing questions?
Absolutely.
All right. What were your overall thoughts on the film?
I still don't love it, but it was better than I thought. I went into it thinking it was going to suck. I really did. Because I didn't really like Terminator. And I'm not a huge fan of Arnold Schwarzenegger. But this movie was better than I thought it would be. So I liked it. Don't really need to watch it ever again, but I liked it.
All right. As I said at the end of last week's video, this was a movie that I grew up watching. It's one I still very much enjoy. I'm a pretty big fan of most of Paul Verhoeven's work. I like his style. Like, I like his aesthetic of like a more violent, visceral action.
Yeah.
I enjoy the story of this movie. Like, I like that it's a more deeply layered sci-fi action film. It's not your stereotypical, like, thoughtless violent film. Like,
yeah.
it maintains violence, but it's also like there's thought put into it. It's intriguing.
It makes me want to pick up the book. What more is in this story?
Yeah, I've kind of always wanted to read this story. I don't know if it's a short story or if it's a full novel.
Let me go to, because I was looking at the name of it and more about it. Let me back up. There we go. It's based off a book. We Can Remember It
For You Wholesale.
For You Wholesale by Philip K. Dick. Let me see. It was first published in a magazine of fantasy and science fiction in April 1966. It was released as a book in 1990. I want to see how. It's 382 pages. So yeah, it's an actual book, and it has like actual chapters in it. So this one might be one that we need to pick up, just to have in the book collection, because you collect Stephen King. You have maybe a couple odds and ends. I love like horror books, thrilling fantasy books, so that might be one that I pick up just to kind of read about a little.
To be fair, I know that the book for this is quite a bit different. But
like the first lines of it are Donald Quaid works at a mediocre desk job.
Yeah, so
I think they did construction because Arnie is pump you up. He's
well,
big.
yeah, exactly. If you put Arnie just in a suit behind a desk, it would look stupid. So they're like, oh, well, let's make him a construction worker. It makes more sense. It's still like a somewhat lowly job.
Yeah. But it makes sense. Oh, excuse me.
Did you have any favorites?
My favorite scene and my favorite line, let me bring it up, are the hologram scene. I loved when he just shows up and starts laughing and giggling and cackling. And then Arnie turns the corner and there's 3 soldiers there. And he's like, ha ha ha, you think this is the real Quaid? It is. And I laughed too hard Because I'm like, God damn it, that was actually pretty clever.
Yeah, that's always been one of my favorite moments in the movie.
You think this is the real Quaid? It is. I'm sorry, what just happened? What about you? What were your favorites?
So I think my favorite lines, like other than that one, the "Get your ass to Mars" has always been somewhat humorous to me. Yep. I think it's just the way Arnie says it.
Get your ass to Mars.
Consider that a divorce. When he shoots his wife in the head.
Oh, consider this. Yeah, that was pretty funny. Oh my god.
I think my favorite moments of the movie are, I really like the scene where the guy shows up from recall in the hotel.
Yes. That actually made me think, like, is this all fake? Is this all he's still in that fucking thing?
I actually have a question about that scene for you.
Okay.
Do you think that in that scene, the guy comes in, he explains to him, it's like, oh, you're still at recall, this is all in your head. He hands him a red pill. Do you think that might have been an inspiration for The Matrix, the whole red and blue pill thing?
Oh my god, maybe.
I've always wondered that, because it's a very similar scene, and it has to do with a similar idea.
At that point, you'd have to ask the Wachowski sisters, like Lana and I forget the other one. You'd have to ask them what they think. But yeah, I didn't think of that. God damn it! Talk about things you're gonna think about at 4 a.m. when you get up to pee, then go to bed and be like, is that what inspired the Matrix, or what happened? God damn it! Yes, I know, sweetheart. I know. Come here. Come here.
The cat is crying. I don't know why.
She's so needy. She like wants love and pets, but then the minute you pick her up, like you get her like this for maybe a couple seconds, she's getting better, and then she's flicking her tail, and then there she goes, and then she gets antsy, and then ow, oh, what you got me?
All right. Does this work?
I mean, thousands upon thousands of people say it does, so sure. I'll say sure.
Does this work for you?
It's Arnie, so I'm biased, so I'm going to say it's ridiculous. It's out there. It's sci-fi. It's crazy. It makes you think, and I'm very, very glad that there's an intelligent movie out of this. It's intelligent. Because it did make me sit there and go, is Quaid really evil? Is Hauser really evil? Was he always in a simulation? Is he still stuck at the recall building? Like, it makes you think. The way that The Matrix makes you think. But, that's all I can answer. I can just, okay, yeah, okay. What about you?
For me, yeah, this works because I go into this not expecting. You go into this not expecting more than a action sci-fi movie, but it does bring you a different level of intellectual storytelling as well. I personally, this is one of my favorite Arnold movies. I'd rather watch this than like a lot of his other stuff. This one, I really like Paul Verhoeven's work, so like it delivers on the action in like a heavier way than most action movies do. So like the cutting is faster, the violence is amped up, the music and you have shit exploding all over the fucking place. There's like windows blowing out everywhere.
Gratuitous violence.
Yeah, this for me personally, as someone who loves 70s and 80s action movies, this works.
This is the 90s.
Yes, but it still carries that like 80s action aesthetic. This is 1990. So it's basically an 80s movie.
It started in the 80s.
It was made in the 80s.
It was made... Probably they were filming this while you were being born.
Probably. Would you recommend it?
Yeah, for people that like this kind of movies, I would. I wouldn't recommend this to all my friends. A lot of my family members wouldn't care about this. But yeah, sure. It makes you think. I like thought-provoking films, so...
I would, of course, recommend it. I'm going to recommend it to anybody who likes these kinds of, like, anybody who likes action movies, anybody who likes sci-fi movies. And I'm talking, like, real sci-fi movies, like, movies that deal with science fiction concepts, not just movies set in the future, you know what I mean?
Blade Runner and shit like that.
Yes, to some degree. Like, you have to like action. Blade Runner is not really action-y. That one's more noir.
I cannot wait to watch that. I've never seen that.
Oh, you're gonna like that one. But yeah, I would recommend this. I think it's a really fun movie, and it's fun to watch Arnold just be ridiculous.
And he is definitely ridiculous in this film.
Which, it's kind of funny. Have you ever seen I assume you've never seen the teaser trailer for this movie.
No.
So the teaser trailer for this movie it's literally just a shot of Arnold's face. Like, so it's like his face, and he's lit in all like blue, and it's like floating in space essentially. And it just does this like interesting shot like around his face, and his face ends up in profile at the top of the screen. And it like pans down, you see Mars, and it's just there's a voiceover over it. It's a very science fiction trailer. Arnold saw that trailer and made them recut a new one because he felt that they should show off the action, which is the trailer we ultimately got. It's the one that's going to be at the beginning of this video.
Yeah.
And the end of the last week's video. But I almost wonder what would have happened if that teaser trailer is all that we had gotten. Like, I feel like the movie probably wouldn't have sold as well, because at the time, thought-provoking trailers didn't really sell. You had to sell the action.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. I think if it were to come out today, that's the trailer that would sell, I think. The teaser.
Anything that makes you think lately. Like, big example is when we saw the trailer for The Night House. Fuck, that really got us and made us think. After we saw the movie...
I didn't hate that movie, though.
I'm really sorry. I tried to do something funny and I scared you. It sucked, in my opinion. It is a movie about grief, which now I think if I watched it, might understand a little more. I might understand that aspect a little more now with what happened in March with my friend passing away. But when we saw it, I was like, the fuck is this? Like, it was not... The concept sounded great, but I just don't think it was executed really well. I think it was poorly executed.
Yeah, that's one... It was like it's a movie about grief ultimately, but it dabbles in cosmic horror. And
which, I love cosmic horror, but I don't think it was done right.
I think they could have taken it to a different level.
They could have either made it less subtle and more scary, or in your face. Like, make the grief the beginning of it, and then go into the cosmic horror harder. This just kind of went grief, cosmic horror. It wasn't hard enough. It needed to either be more subtle or just fucking lean into it and go with it, guys.
I think they should have leaned into it.
I also appreciate very, very, very subtle horror. Like, things don't need to be right off the bat fucking terrifying. I love when things make you, like, horror makes me think. That's more terrifying than anything.
Agreed.
Yep.
And these days, that's mostly what we get. It's all atmospheric horror.
There's a couple of horror movies we bought that we haven't even cracked open that I'm waiting for a really good rainy day to crack that Nicolas Cage The Color Space. Partially because I want to see it and how good it is. Partially because I'm terrified it might suck.
Yeah, I've tried not to hear anything about that one, but
I've heard nothing. I've only seen like what flashes, like the trailer and a couple other things. I've really tried to avoid any kind of spoilers with that, because while Lovecraft the material is amazing, execution on the screen doesn't always go well.
No.
I mean, it goes poor, and the only thing I've watched that was executed decent was Into the Mouth of Madness with Sam Neill, and I don't remember the other guy that was really in it, but I love Sam Neill. Anything Sam Neill touches is great.
How would you make this today?
I wouldn't want to. I like the practical in the 90s, in the 80s. I like the cast that it has. I think someone would go too big and ruin this.
And they did.
What?
Yes, there is a remake of Total Recall. Came out not that long ago, starring Colin Farrell and Kate Beckinsale.
Did it tank? Because I've never heard of it.
Oh, it's a great big pile of shit.
Oh, I feel like this needs to be watched then.
Which is unfortunate because in the remake, Cohagen is played by Bryan Cranston.
Ooh!
And he does great in the movie. He does great as always.
Yeah.
And I think if it wasn't called Total Recall, I would like it more.
Oh, no.
But it's just not...
It's not. It's not up to par. It's not up to snuff.
By comparison, it's a great big pile of trash. It's fucking awful.
This is the only one that exists in my mind. Leave this one there.
Yeah, I agree. As we say with most things, I feel like if you're gonna do this at all now, just you can do a series. That would be an interesting way to make it different.
Yeah.
And you could explore more of it. You could probably see some of the backstory of like Hauser and Melina before he becomes Quaid.
Hauser and Cohagen.
Like that stuff would be interesting to see.
Yeah. How the Rebels came to be, how that came to birth. I like prequels explaining more, but I wouldn't want anything after. I don't want to see the after. I want to think of it as everything turned out great and everybody's happy.
Is this mainstream exploitation or other?
Mainstream other, because it was pushing a little bit of a boundary with like the creative nudity, the mutants, the storyline, but it's mainstream. There is nothing exploitation about this.
Yeah, I agree. Mainstream action sci-fi movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger from 1990. Like,
I mean, that man was the action. Him, Sylvester Stallone, Steven Seagal, and Jean-Claude Van Damme. 80s, 90s actions. If they were attached to it, it was an action movie.
Pretty much.
I mean, even Jingle All the Way is a fucking action movie, for God's sake.
To some degree. I do have an additional question for you this week.
Ooh.
So, I wrote down some extra notes for this. And my question is, now that you've seen this movie, you've taken in this story, was it all real or was it all in his head?
I mean, it's the same thing that I feel with Matrix. Is it all real or is it all in fucking Mr. Anderson's head? Like, I honestly think, to some degree, that it could all be in his head. We never see him leave Recall. We see them sedate him, and then we see him in a cab. We never see him physically leave. I would love to think, because I love pain and suffering a little, that he is still in the Recall Center and this is all in his head. He got exactly what he wanted, and he's still there.
Okay.
What about you?
So, like you, I tend to enjoy the darker side of things. So, I personally like to think that he's still in recall. But I wrote down a couple of notes here that I thought just interesting points. And nothing major, but just things I kind of noticed that I thought was lent to each side of the spectrum. So you have we'll start with why with it not being a simulation.
Yeah.
It's not all in his head. Why would the film show us any of the people at recall after they re-sedate him after he comes out and he's all freaking out?
Okay.
Why would they show us any of that, of them talking about dumping him in the cab and erasing it? We wouldn't need to see that. We would just fade out with him.
That's very true.
Throughout the early moments of the movie, you can watch the character, like the other characters around Quaid, his wife, Harry. They all have these little moments. Like, she says goodbye to him, "Have a nice day," and then it holds with her as she's like kind of contemplative thinking. After he asks Harry about recall, Harry kind of like stares him down, like all concerned. Like, there's these moments that it holds on that you don't need, but these are moments that would give away that there's something more there.
Okay.
On first viewing, you could probably overlook them. I'm going to switch over to reasons for it being a simulation, which I have significantly more. So, the first one that I notice is that everything that the salesman says to Doug, McClane, the guy he talks to at recall, everything he says is accurate.
Okay.
So he's talking to him about, at first, on these vacations you can avoid all the hassles of an actual vacation. So you get no crooked cab drivers, no crooked cab drivers. Initially, the first cab driver he interacts with after recall is a robot. He wouldn't be crooked, he's just a robot.
Yep.
Technically, that falls apart a little bit with Benny, but that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Lousy weather. There's no weather on Mars.
Yep.
Until the end. The way he describes the ego trip is exactly what happens to Doug.
Yep.
Beat for beat. When Doug describes the woman, he's picking out all the features. Brunette, athletic, what do you say, sleazy, and demure.
Yeah.
And then it literally shows a picture of her. Not just of a woman who looks like her, of the actress.
The actual actress, yes.
So, alright, why would it be exactly her? It wouldn't be. It would be a similar looking, like, woman.
Yeah.
How would Harry know that he went to recall at all? You suggested that because he followed him.
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense. Like, I definitely can see that working. Otherwise, he just
friend
knows.
Out of concern, but once he's in the simulation and comes out, then he believes, I'm a spy. I'm undercover, and Harry's here to kill me. Like, I can see everything for he's in a simulation the entire way through.
Yes. Towards the end, when they try to rewrite their minds, they have the exact same type of memory implant machines at Cohigan's base that Recall has.
Yeah. Yep.
And is this because those are the only way Quaid knows what the machines look like?
Yeah.
So in his mind, they're the same looking machines.
Yep. why would they be the same machine?
They wouldn't be.
Yeah.
You would think they would have something either more advanced or at least different looking.
Yeah.
And then there's the premise of the entire movie. Like that big reveal at the end where he's saying, like, oh, the entire core of Mars is ice, and when it superheats it releases oxygen. Logistically, that's wrong.
It is 100% wrong.
If you superheated ice, it just releases water vapor, and since we're not water-based life forms, that would do nothing for us.
It would create storm clouds in the atmosphere, but then you would just get a cycling storm that would never end.
Right. So this doesn't make any sense, and honestly, like, I'm not an expert, but I will show you a clip from actually I'll show the audience and let the audience hear a clip from Red Letter Media's review of this, where they actually talk about the same exact thing.
Really?
And I'll put that here. So my thought is that this makes sense to a person who doesn't understand the logistics of creating an atmosphere. So he's a lowly construction worker. He wouldn't know that ice doesn't create oxygen. You know what I mean? So he just accepts what his mind makes up.
Yeah.
These are my little notes on that.
But I think you're pretty much 100% right. Like, where the science fiction doesn't add up, where the, like, science doesn't add up, it makes an imprint for, that's not real, so it's all fake. Like, we're humans that go by logic. We think logically. Some of us live in a fantasy world, and that's okay. This is a lot of fantasy. Like...
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's an enjoyable story.
Yeah, it is. Which, it makes me accept the story more if he never got out of recall. Like, I'm okay with that, where he's not happy in his marriage, something's missing, you know, his friends are suspicious, like, oh, why do you need to do this? What if, you know, his wife was very concerned because he's, in the background, he was seeing someone about, you know, missing memories, and he's been having trouble and all this stuff, and what if he went to recall to escape his unhappy life? And he's still there.
It's possible.
We all wish we could have a escape kind of like this.
All right, I think that brings our discussion on Total Recall to an end. But don't go anywhere. Please stay tuned for the coming attractions.
Angst, wie in einem Albtraum. Horror und Spannung, wie sie kaum zu überbieten sind. Nachts, wenn das Licht ausgeht und die Treppen auf einmal knarren, erleben Sie die Nacht der rollenden Köpfe. Keiner weiß, ob er Mensch oder Biest ist. Keiner weiß, wer er ist oder wo er ist. Ist er hinter der Tür? Vor dem Fenster, auf dem Dach. Nur Sie werden wissen, dass er die schreckenerregendste Leinwandfigur der Saison ist. Wenn Sie nach der Nacht der lebenden Toten und der Nacht der reitenden Leichen schlaflose Nächte hatten, verpassen Sie nicht die Nacht der rollenden Köpfe. Interesse. Ein Film im Stil von Hitchcock. Er übersteigt bisherige Vorstellungen von Horrorszenen. Robert Hoffmann und Susan Scott in dem Film Die Nacht der rollenden Köpfe. Kommen Sie nicht allein in diesen Film, denn wenn Sie diese Schritte hören, brauchen Sie einen nervenstarken Partner, an den Sie sich festklammern können. Die Nacht der rollenden Köpfe. Ein böser Film.
Unfortunately, due to a technical glitch, we lost our outro for this week's episode. So here I am, several days later, filling in the blanks. The trailer you all just saw was for the 1973 German giallo thriller Death Carries a Cane, starring Susan Scott. This one was one of Leah's picks. It's one that neither of us have ever seen, and as a huge fan of giallo cinema, I cannot express how excited I am to check out a new one. There's always something about the style of giallo films that I find exciting. That over-the-top violence and bright paint-colored blood on exposed flesh always makes for a fun ride. If you enjoyed this episode of Grindhouse, please consider following us on Facebook and Instagram at Grindhouse Podcast. We are on Twitter at GrindhouseCast. You can chat with Leah over on our Discord at Grindhouse Podcast. If you're enjoying the show and you want a more visual experience, subscribe to us on YouTube, where you can get every single episode in its entirety with video. If you want to help support the show, come find us on Patreon or support us directly on Anchor. All of that information is going to be listed down in the show notes. Until next time, I'm Shawn. Leah sends her best. Thank you for listening, and keep watching.
Of the shocking nature of many scenes in this film, it is definitely not recommended for the squeamish.